Hey, this is Jon Gordon. This is a special edition of Positive You with the Positive Summit, talking to Damian Lillard. Damian, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So you've been traveling a lot. I'm so glad we could do this for the summit. I know you've been so busy, but I know myself and everyone really appreciates you making time for this.
Yep, absolutely, man. Anytime I can, participate in something like this, and be able to share like from a true experience, I'm always down for it.
We talk about positivity, but when we talk about positivity, it's not like Pollyanna positive. It's not about seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. I
Yeah.
think of it as mental toughness, resilience, grit. You embody all these things.
Yeah.
I think about you and how mentally tough you are. I got to ask you, like, where do you think this came from? Did it come from your background where you grew up? Like, take us back, and what were you like as a kid?
I think that a lot of it does come from the way that I was raised. You grow up with just a certain standard, and I think that comes from the kind of family that I come from. Mom, dad, grandparents, aunties, uncles, and then you factor in the fact that I grew up with 50 cousins, boy, girl cousins, some older, some younger, some my age. And you just deal with a lot. You know what I'm saying? You uh, getting into scuffles, you getting clowned on, you just deal with so many things to where you become sturdy. You gotta become solid and you gotta become tough. And mentally you gotta be able to deal with all of those different things and deal with the standard of the family, what's expected. Well, the kind of grades you got to have, how you got to be able to defend yourself. And when you playing sports, are you one of the best players? It was just always that pressure of like a standard from the environment that I come from. So it just kind of, it pushed me to a point where I had no choice but to be mentally tough. And then as I moved away from my family and got older and, was in my high school program to where, okay, nobody's with me at every practice and every step of the way. I'm catching a bus and doing things on my own, and then people are just coming to the games. I experienced enough things to where it was like it just grew. My mental toughness just continued to grow as I experienced things, and I had some hard times of my own, and I had more things that I had to figure out that my parents and other people couldn't walk me through. It was stuff that I had to grow through, and that's continued all the way up until today. I still go through those things that just keep sharpening me. It just keeps happening. All of these different situations that just continue to make my mental toughness grow. But I think the foundation of it is definitely in my upbringing.
So in my neighborhood, it was like Lord of the Flies. We had to fight a lot. You and I were just talking about boxing before this
Yeah.
interview. I had to fight as a kid growing up. Did you have to fight in your neighborhood?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think the beauty of it is, coming from a tough place like I do, I think people glorify the negative side of it. And as much as there was negative experiences in my childhood, I think, I do have to thank a lot of those people that were around at that time because I think they made some positives out of what could have been much worse situations. Like you said, you had to fight, and I did too. There was times in school or in the neighborhood where somebody steal your bike and they riding around the neighborhood on your bike like they'd steal your bike. And, that's when your card is getting pulled and those are the times where like a fight could happen. But I think in our neighborhood, it was such a community that, at our rec center, which was, just central in the neighborhood, basketball gym, a stage, swings, playground stuff, tennis court. Um, it got to the point where they was like, okay, if you guys are gonna be getting in all these altercations, like we're gonna have boxing gloves here. And if anybody has, a disagreement or y'all get to a point where y'all feel like y'all gotta prove yourself in that way, let's put the gloves on and do it right. And it was times where people get to that point and they be like, I really don't want to handle it like that, and it never comes to actually having to fight when people really realize like, I don't want to fight. And then other times it's like, all right, let's settle it. And that way, nobody's getting seriously hurt by just bare, knuckle fist fighting. You putting on gloves and you settle it. And, then they make you shake hands and hug it out. And all right, we moving on, and that just, I felt like that was a real good thing for our neighborhood. But but we definitely had to defend ourselves. People are being taught different things in their households, and in a tough place, of course, your family and your loved ones are telling you, when you go out there, if they hit you, hit them back. If somebody do this, do something back. Don't be getting punked, and so you kind of go out there naturally with your guard up and prepare for something to happen and prepare to react accordingly. So that's, I think, just being on edge and being in that type of environment, like I said, it definitely it shapes you, and you experience enough things where it's not just like something that you talk about. You actually experience things, walking to the liquor store and on the way back, as kids a little older, they know you, they know your family, but they kids, so they trying to like pick on you, and they, snatch your bag that you get from candy at the store. I mean, just a lot of little situations that you just have to go through to be able to actually be comfortable with certain stuff and to actually be tough and to actually be less fearful. And I think a lot of stuff in my adulthood now, because of those experiences, me growing up, I'm not bothered by a lot of things that people are bothered by. Like, I don't walk into certain situations with fear, or if I'm somewhere and I'm by myself, my behavior or energy doesn't feel different. If I was with four other people and I was walking past a group of people or whatever, I feel the same even when I'm by myself. And I think that's because of, those experiences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Going back to when you were young, did you stand out as an athlete like early on? Were you already rising above and people were taking notice of you, saying, okay, that kid's going to be something one day?
No, I never stood out actually. I went my whole life just, sharing a room with my older brother, Houston, and we would always have conversations about, how we viewed ourselves as brothers. And, every team I was on, he felt like I was the best player. I just didn't step into it yet. And they just didn't know it. That's how we spoke to each other. Like, I thought my brother was the best player. I thought he was the best quarterback because I knew him, and that's how we felt about each other. And that's just, how we viewed ourselves internally. Um, And I like, because of how we spoke, like at first I was like, man, this is my brother. This is why we doing this for each other. And as he got older and started to play at different levels, I believed in him that way. And my brother, was always telling people, my brother going to the league, my brother's going Division 1, my brother's this, my brother that. And I have so many people come up to me now, like, man, your brother and your dad used to always tell us about you, but we, everybody say that. And I think even though I wasn't performing that way, in elementary school and middle school, and even my first, 2 years of high school, I didn't really, I didn't play as a sophomore. And I transferred schools and I really kind of turned that corner my junior year in high school. But even at that time, I wasn't like the top player or none of that. But I think it was just always something that I felt there, like I felt that I had real confidence on the inside, and I felt that I had real toughness and real like belief. So even though I didn't have a scholarship until I was in the 12th grade, I was never worried that I wasn't going to get a scholarship, because it was just it was in me. I just believed it. Um, and that was just kind of like, even when I went to Weber State, back home, nobody was like, Dame going to Weber State. It was like kind of unknown. Like, nobody really knew. It was other players that came out the same time as me that went to bigger schools, and they were bigger names, around the Bay Area. And I just wasn't mentioned amongst those people, because I wasn't really like a big name like that in high school, and I wasn't going to a big name school. And even when I got to Weber State, I walked on campus, and in my mind, I was like, I'm going to the NBA, but nobody else was thinking that, you know what I mean? Like, nobody was thinking that, but it was the same thing as when I was a kid. I've always had like this internal, like, extreme level of like optimism. It's like I've just always believed, and I've never like had real worry, like, oh man, it's not going to happen. My junior year in college, I broke my foot and I was on the draft boards. That was like the first time where I was like, man, like, I'm 21 years old, or I'm, about to be 21 years old. I got to come back to school. they don't really draft dudes that's, older. I'm at a small school. I'm coming off injury. Like that was the first time where I questioned it. But even then, like it was really quick. It was like I had surgery. I was coming back from surgery. I had some like down moments, and my brother was like, "Don't be feeling bad for yourself. Like people get hurt all the time. You've just never been hurt." My brother tore his ACL, broke his. He had all types of injuries. So he was just like, "You got to bounce back. Just keep going." And it was just real quick. But I've always just had something inside of me where I've just always believed. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, it grows, like I've been saying, that mental toughness grows through experiences. Like that same belief on the inside continues to grow because I just keep experiencing more things. And I think that allows me, knowing that that's been my experience like my whole life, of just knowing inside, and then those things have actually come to life based on like what I put into those thoughts. Like, all right, I need to work harder. I need to listen, even though the coach is getting on me and it might sound crazy how they've been, and Phil might be, a little bit wild with his approach or whatever. I always engaged, and I always just kind of took the criticism. And it was always because of what I felt inside. Like this is something that could, push me forward. And now I do the same thing. So because of that past experience, even from when I was a kid up to now, it's always produced for me. So my belief in going about things that way, it just keeps getting stronger the older I get. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, that's how it's been. I was never like the big name, and, they knew I was going to make it. My mom didn't even know I was going to make it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure she wouldn't go out there and say, my son ain't going to make it to the NBA, but in her heart, she was struggling at work. And I'm positive that she wasn't going to work every day like this is going to be over soon, until my very last moments at college where it was like official.
Do you think that you had to work even harder? You were grittier because you weren't noticed as much. You had this inner fortitude, but the world didn't see it. So that made you work harder to prove yourself. Do you think that made you so strong and so mentally tough?
I do. I think, just when you get to a point where you start to, like I said, you have that belief. And, I've gotten into it with people that I'm very close with. Phil specifically was very bothered when I was a freshman in college about the type of belief that I had in myself. Because he mistook it for, you're delusional and you think you don't have to work hard. And that's not what I thought. But, sometimes my actions appear to be that way. I'll be honest to say that. Like sometimes my actions appear to be that I don't think that I got to do these things because I think I'm this good, when really I didn't think that. But that's what my belief in myself like showed, because I was young and immature at times. So my actions didn't always add up. So it really bothered him. Like he would like get really mad. Like, you think you're this and you think you're that. And I would be like, no, like I believe in myself. And, it took years and years and years for me and him to like, me to be much older and for us to have a 20-year relationship, or however long it's been, 15 years, whatever. It took us to be so far in advance in our relationship for him to just come out and be like, man, like, I used to go to the gym when I was younger, and, I walk in the gym and I was worried about like, all right, who else is playing? Who am I going to be matched up against? He just didn't have that same type of belief. So it bothered him, that I had that type of belief. You know what I mean? So like, we talked about that much later, and it was just like, it ended up being like the best thing that I have is my belief. You know what I'm saying? And I took that belief, and he pushed me so hard. And that's where what you said comes in. I just worked so hard and hard because it wasn't ever given to me. Nothing was ever given to me. And I think the beauty of it is I never worked hard I wasn't working hard because I wanted to make money, and I was working hard because I was like, they don't see in me what I see in me, and they need to see it. You know what I mean? Like I need to put it in their face. And Phil was showing me the way,
So you
don't
thought
be late for.
you thought you were working hard, and you had this belief, but Phil showed you had to work even harder. And we're talking about Phil Beckner.
My phone froze. All right, there you go.
Yeah, you good? We're talking about Phil Beckner, who is your, you would say, NBA skills coach, your friend, coach, helped you develop all the way from college all the way into the NBA. And so Phil Beckner's a great guy. He's also on the summit. I love Phil. I was just actually with Phil. Just played pickleball with Phil, Amy.
Yeah, he stay talking about that, man.
Yeah, we just played some pickleball. Anyway, but he was there for you from the early ages when you were playing in college, and he was always pushing you. But again, you had this belief, but he got you to work even harder. But would you say also because you had this identity of belief in yourself, and because of that, when he pushed you, it didn't make you feel worse. It actually fueled you to make you better.
Yeah, it definitely fueled me. Because I had the belief, and we bumped heads there, like I said, because he didn't understand the belief because I wasn't as good as I probably thought I was. So it was like he could be another one of these delusional kids that think he don't have to do, work hard, and because I wasn't working hard enough, but I thought I was. So it just kind of was it was a disconnect there. And the more we got to know each other, like he started to realize that, okay, he's trying to figure it out, So we had some battles. I had some struggles. I didn't always have it all figured out because it was a process for me like anybody else, when you're trying to turn that corner. And once it did click, I think because of my belief and, how much of a, militant person I am, like I did everything he said to do, like we got to get up at 6 every day to work out. You got to get in the cold tub. You got to eat breakfast. Don't be late to class. Everything counts. And then, I was always cheap in college. I didn't like spending my financial aid. I didn't like spending my stipend checks that we got every month for scholarship. Like they used to laugh at me about it. So one time he was like, we don't have anywhere to work out. We got to go to this rec center. It costs $10 to get in there. I was like, I ain't paying. Like, I'm not paying $10. And he gave me this whole speech about the price of a dream, and I was like, all right, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just make it make sense to me. Like, tell me, like, what is, you know what I'm saying? And once he was just pushing all these things on me and sending me quotes and giving me books. I read your book, Training Camp, during that time. I was, like I said, I was just militant about that process. And, the thing with Phil, just you add that to my own belief that I already had, and then it kind of produced, who I am now. It kind of like made me, this is how it came together. It was like something that was there, that was in my childhood, that was just in my family. And then, I met the right teachers and the right people along the way. And Phil was a big part of that.
Do you believe that it was an accident, or do you believe that maybe God brought you and Phil together because you always had this belief? Like, where did that belief come from? Like this belief of a kid to say, I can play in the NBA, then to meet a coach who helps you get there as a person of faith. You think it was an accident, or do you really think it was like a divine appointment?
No, I think it was divine. I don't think this was by accident because our backgrounds are too similar. Our mentality towards things is too similar. And obviously it's grown more alike as we've grown in our relationship together and been around each other. But we viewed a lot of things the same. He needed me, the player, like to have the progression that he's had as a trainer and as a coach, because he got better through me, literally, as a coach. When I met Phil, he wasn't the trainer that he is now and the coach that he became. It was just, I was his project, and, he was what I needed to become, what I needed to become. So we kind of both we brought the best out of each other, because there was a point where he was giving me all these things and I was just working on it. So I was challenging him to have to find different things to bring to the table and to do and to look into, to help me get better. So he was having to do his homework and, what should I be doing? And so he was pushing me and I was pushing him. And, I think it's, that was divine. That's designed by God. That wasn't by accident that I ended up at Weber State. and he's at Weber State, and then, you know, all of the things that have taken place, you know, how we developed our relationship and things like that. So I feel like it was meant to be, you know, this was written.
No doubt. You get to the NBA. What was your mindset when you first arrived at the NBA? Did you think, okay, I could be a star in this league? You won Rookie of the Year, but before that, beginning of the season, what was your mindset like? And how'd you get through the initial fear, if you had any, and the little anxiety you might have had, or the struggles you had early on?
I think I definitely had a little bit of fear of like, it was just the unknown. Like this not like going to college, it's the NBA. Like these are the people I've been watching for years. It's the ultimate, it's like the highest level of basketball. So it was like a little bit of fear just of the unknown, but the belief was there. This is like another time that me and Phil really got into it bad. Like, so when I was at Weber, we had a press conference where I entered the draft. And when I entered the draft, I was like, you know, I'm gonna put my name in the 2012 draft, whatever, you know. They started asking questions. They was like, Dame, so, you know, what do you think? You know, everybody's saying you're probably gonna be a lottery pick. They saying all these things. And I'm talking and they like asked me questions. You know, going into the first year, I said, I want to be Rookie of the Year. You know, I want to do this, I want to do that. And as soon as I got off the stage and like walked back to the locker room, Phil was in the hallway like, who do you think you are? You might be in the G League and you might not play as a rookie. It might take 2 years before you get on the court. You don't know. He was just like on me. But like when I said it, I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was just saying something that was out there. Like you could literally go back to the press conference at Weber and you can find me saying like, I'm gonna be Rookie of the Year. And he was so mad. You know what I mean? Like he was just so mad. And then after I won Rookie of the Year, he was like, Game. He was like, when you said that, I was so mad. He said, but from now on, like, if you tell me that you can climb to the top of the Empire State Building, like, I'm gonna wait until you fail at it before I, you know what I'm saying, before I get mad or go against you. And, you know, that's just a prime example of like, I don't deny that it was like a healthy fear of, you know, the unknown, but the belief was still there. Like, yeah, but when it really comes down to it, like, when I get put in a hit, like I'm not gonna fold. You know, even if I don't do well, I'm not gonna get up there and just shrink. So like my very first practice with the Blazers, like I was just killing. You know what I mean? Like I remember the first day, my mom dropped me off. I didn't have a car yet. My mom had a rental. We was moved to Portland together. She dropped me off at the practice facility. I went in. My first day meeting everybody, you know, we go in there, we start hooping, and I was just killing. And I remember thinking to myself, like, after summer, like real team, like, and I remember thinking to myself, like, if this is how the NBA is, like, I'm gonna be fine, you know. But I never looked far enough ahead to be like, you know, I'm gonna be a top 75 player and 7-time All-Star in 11 seasons. And, you know, I never looked that far ahead. Like I would be lying if I said I saw this, but I also I'm not here like, man, I'm surprised, you know, because I've always had the belief of like, I'm gonna push the envelope as far as I possibly can. And as long as I, you know, stay true to the things that allow me to be successful all along, I'll continue to produce more results. And that's what's happened. And it's kind of like, catapulted me into where I am now.
I love that you said, you know, I didn't want to be a Hall of Famer. I was focusing on Rookie of the Year. Like they showed the role of Rookie of the Year, and that was your first focus.
Yeah.
So you get to the NBA, and now you're playing in the NBA. What was it like, though, to achieve your dream? Like everybody has this dream. Not everyone achieves the dream they have in their life. For me, it was writing books and at some point doing what I do now. And I remember that moment where I was like, wow, I am now living my dream.
Right.
What was that moment like for you when you realized I am in the NBA and I'm living my dream? Did you allow yourself to have that moment?
You know, I've signed super max contracts. Like I've signed 3 max contracts, you know, over $100 million contracts. I've signed major shoe deals. You know, I've got $1 million partners, you know, that I work with. And like, as great as those things feel, like the moment that I think of that I feel the most emotion and like the most like accomplished when I think of is just when my name got called.
Mm.
Because it was like I worked so hard for that. You know what I mean? My whole life for just people not thinking I was the guy that I felt like I was. And being in the green room, they called my name and like it was like cheers, you know, when people number one pick, number two pick, it was cheers, but it was like fan cheer. You know what I mean? And you'll see a couple people in families or whatever. And nobody really knew me. So when my name got called, you know, people cheered, but like I looked up to the right and I had like 60 family members that was there all in one section. And I looked up and I was like, they know, you know what I mean? Like they know they know this journey. They know what it was to get here. Like we really neighborhood people and we really come from something and I did it. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to change my family's life. You know, I'm going to change a lot of people in my family's life. And it's also the NBA. So when my name got called, I just tripped out for a second. You know, I just left the building and, you know, I went up to David Stern and I was just like I wanted to cry, but I didn't cry. You know, like a couple of tears came out and I wanted to just literally break down and cry because that's how overwhelmed with like feelings I had, you know, on the inside. I was just like, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? And my family, they know like this is like the greatest accomplishment of all time. Like for, you know what I'm saying? Like for us. And you know, going through the whole media gauntlet and then coming back out to the back after, you know, doing interviews and pictures and all of that stuff. And just seeing all my family just waiting for me. You know, it was 60 people just back there waiting for me. And it was like, these ain't just loose friends that came out of nowhere. It was like my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, my parents, my brother, my sister. Like, they was really like, you know, like, this is really us. This is like my people. And they know what it is. They know what this took, you know, like, so like that's the moment that I think of where I was like, I'm here, you know. So I think from there on, like the rest of this stuff is just, you know, icing on the cake. It's just like, man, I'm gonna keep pushing it and keep pushing it and keep pushing it. But that was the moment, you know, like just making it. It was like I did it, you know.
Yeah, it's so special. It's so
It's
special.
undescribable. Like you can't describe that feeling. It's like I wish I could have that feeling. I wish I could have it again, you know, like just but you can't have it again. Like it's nothing, there's no way to describe that.
But the
Like I
fact
could have passed out. I could have passed out and just fell out and just like it's overwhelming.
but the fact that you had that feeling is such a great feeling and
Yeah.
moment of your life that you'll never forget, part of your journey, part of who you are,
You
and
know
part
what it
of
was like? You know, you ever seen like Phil like one of the assignments that Phil gave me when I was in college was to watch the movie Pursuit of Happiness
Mm.
with Will Smith. Have you seen that movie?
But yeah, great movie. Love that movie.
And at the end of the movie, like he has all these parking tickets. He gets arrested, and he's painting his house, and he has paint all over him and tank top. And he gets out just in time. He runs to the office and he do the interview, and like he gets the job. And then it's a scene of him outside, and he just like, you know, he got his hands up, he clapping. And you see the crowd going by, and he emotional. It's like he's not crying, but he just like overwhelmed with that, like I needed this. Like this is like, you know, like that scene is like that to me, that scene looks like the feelings that I had. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that scene recreates that feeling for me. So I watched every once in a while, I'll just go watch Pursuit of Happiness because I know it's coming, but when that scene comes, it recreates the feelings that I had when I got my name called. Like it just recreates it every time.
And so many people would just be happy getting their name called, but you wanted to do so much more than that, which is great. Like a lot of guys would say, I made it, but then not work
Yeah.
to the next level. What made you work so hard after you achieved your dream? You got your name called. What made you work even harder when you got to the NBA to be the superstar that you are right now?
I think it's that standard that I talked about earlier, with just where I come from. Everybody was excited that I was picked. I'm in the league, but the page immediately turned to like, all right, like, don't be out there just, that was kind of the energy from my dad, my brother, my train from Phil. It was just like, you better get out there and do something. So it was that standard of like how I talked about, you get clowned and people hold you accountable. And, my cousin's going to say something. They're going to be telling me like, there's going to be criticism there, like, because of what's always been expected of us, just as a family, as a group, whether that was being in a spelling bee or racing your bike, like no matter what, it's like, it's a standard in this family. And it wasn't like they were pressuring that on me, but because that's what I grew up in, I felt it on myself. Like, I got to get in here and like, me and my mom at my wedding, every time, we're in the car together, it's a song by Kanye West called Good Life. And it's like, I'm going to get on this TV, mama. I'm going to push it down like that. My mom has that type of, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to represent, you got to go out there and you have to like, you got to put on, man. You got to, all right, you made it, but it's a standard here. Like, it's a certain level of expectation that we have just to represent ourselves a certain way. And that's what I felt. So it wasn't as great as I felt about making it. I knew that was just like the beginning,
You said, you know what? I know what the best do better, and I got to go work and do the fundamentals and get better every day and always improve. And you were basically just putting yourself through what it takes to be the best.
Yeah.
And there's something that they call Dame time. I mean, you have a clutch time that is named after you. Like, you have your own name. It shows how clutch you are. What's your mindset during Dame time when the game's on the line? You're not fazed by it. Does it go back to the early days when, again, being mentally tough, like, and then having success along the way? What makes you so confident in those moments?
I think it's two things. Is one, I know that I prepare myself to like be successful. So if I do come up short, I know that it's just because that just was the time that I had to come up short. It's not because of a lack of preparation. So, I always feel prepared. I always feel confident that I'm gonna be able to come through. I feel conditioned. I feel strong mentally. I work on my game. I stay sharp. I study, I watch film. I know, what opportunities are going to be there for me. So that's like one thing that makes me like really confident in those situations. And I think the second thing is what I talked about kind of earlier, is just having so many different types of experiences. I've had great experiences. I've had horrible experiences. So when you feel like the low side of things and you felt the high side of things and you've experienced enough of each, it allows you to be just almost a little bit carefree in those moments. Like, I go into those moments like, if I fail, so what? Like, I'll be fine. Like, I'll come back from it. And if I end up having a major moment and, hit a game winner or do something and I'm successful, I can handle that and understand like how I was able to get that type of result without it making me think that it's just gonna happen, So I know that I can handle either result. So because of those two things, I'm able to just be free in those moments. I'm just free. When that time comes, I just expect to be successful.
Yeah, as I
And I
wrote it,
think when you just expect it that way and you're also prepared, it's not like I expect it in a delusional way. I expect it because I'm prepared. I believe. I do my homework, and then if I come up short, I'm like, all right, not the first time, probably won't be the last. It's okay. It's actually an opportunity for the next time to be like, yeah, I've shrunk. I didn't do it the last time, but I'm gonna do it this time, So like, that's kind of my mentality about it. And it allows me to have a certain like level of freedom in some of the tightest moments, And I'm also able to recognize the lack of that in other people. And that makes me become more of a believer. Like, when I can see the lack of that type of belief in like competition, it makes me that much more of a believer in the type of page that I'm on in that time.
I could see that. So you're in a game, you can see the competition. They don't want the ball, but you do.
Yeah, I can just see that the decision making and the body language, I kind of can, I wouldn't even describe it as scared. I can just be like, just uncertain, not forward about it. So when I see that, I become more bold in mind.
Yeah. As I wrote in training camp, like the best are able to seize the moment because they're not afraid of failure. And they're not afraid of failure because
Yeah.
they know that that failure doesn't define them. They may fail in that moment, but isn't define their identity. I would say the same
Exactly.
with you. You know who you are, so you're
Exactly.
not afraid of failure.
Exactly. Because I felt a lot, I get a lot of criticism, just I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and you would be surprised at how many people, like, anytime I tweet anything, I can tweet about boxing and I'll get 200 tweets back. That's like, you never won anything. You don't have no MVPs. You don't have a ring. You don't have this. You don't have that. And I'm just like, it's just all of my failures and everything that I haven't done being thrown into your face. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's like you said, it doesn't describe me. It doesn't define me. So, and I really believe that. So I'm not, I don't like that they say that, but because it's like, man, y'all don't get it. You know what I'm saying? But it's also like I'm not moved by it. Like I know that it doesn't define me, and I know that there's a higher level of success that I'm reaching. In the midst of that, and I do think that ultimately I'll reach the success that they're describing. It's just not what they think my success and my failure is. Is just not what I think it is. So it's that's kind of like a battle, when you're in the middle of it.
You're always going to have naysayers. And I see some of those tweets where
Yeah.
people come at you. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're coming at
Yeah.
Damian, one of the greatest players of our time and in the history, as most people would agree. But you're always going to have naysayers, right? You're always going to have haters. There are always
Yeah.
going to be people who don't recognize greatness or see it.
Yeah.
But when you hear that, does it fuel you to get even better, to do more, or you just go, whatever? Or both?
I mean, I just take note. I wouldn't even say, I think I'm fueled by what I want to accomplish at this point. I think when I was 24, 25, 26, I'll be like, I would respond back to them like wood on the fire. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm just like, man, these people don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
They can never walk this walk. A couple failures, a little criticism, it'll bury a lot of people, especially when you're under a microscope. So it allows me to take what they say and some of the things that we experience with a grain of salt, and actually have, a little bit of grace for people, because you see, like, something got to be a little off, got to be going through something, or it has to be, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm in this time, I'm more in that type of space where it's just like, I take it with a grain of salt, and I just take note. I take note of it, and I just continue to, push forward.
That leads me to ask you what I wanted to ask you. What have you not achieved that you still want to achieve going forward?
I haven't won the championship. Like, for me, I just want to win the championship. When I was in high school, I never won a state championship. When I was in college, I never won. I won regular season championships. We never won the conference tournament and went to the NCAA tournament and won. In college, I didn't experience that. And at this level, to me, I just feel like, because I haven't done, and all of that, like, I won a championship in middle school. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's time for me to win the championship now, at this level. And that'd be just perfect. That'd be the cherry on top for me for a career.
It's also because you're that kind of player. You're a team player. You want your
Yeah.
team to be great. You're not interested in just, in self achievements. You want team achievements, and you want greatness as a team. But that also requires an organization, a team, and it requires everyone to come
The
together.
collective effort.
Yeah, a collective effort and a collective mindset. So as we come towards a close, like, what's the mindset to make people around you better? Because the great ones don't always, right? The great ones don't always at the end of their career when they coach, or they don't become coaches because they don't make people around them better. I believe the greatest ones are the ones who make the people around them better. So how are you making people around them better?
I think the number one thing that I've began stepping into is I've always had a balance of, patting people on the back and, holding people accountable. But I think to make people better now is like just to not be too much of a nice guy, and that doesn't mean I'm gonna be an asshole all of a sudden. I think that just means that because of the kind of family I come from and because of the kind of person that I am, I create comfort for people. Like I like people to be comfortable and feel good about themselves and to know like I support them, I got their back. And I'm even that way with my family. And what I've noticed is sometimes when you create that type of space for people, it creates a space for just being content and, being okay with what's happening right now. And being content is fine. It's good sometimes because you don't ever want to get to the point where you just want too much. And nothing is ever enough. But I think sometimes because of how I go about things, I create a space of just comfort for people and just, whatever, everything's fine. Dame's not upset. Dame's fine with it, whatever, So I think I could be better about that as far as making people around me better. I also think about, okay, what is it? What if I take a step back from, having as much individual success and creating space for more people on my team to have some success. I'm open to that. I've always been open to it, but what's worked has always worked, but it hasn't gotten us a championship. So I think for me, I'm open to do whatever. I think that's where it starts, is being open to sacrifice and open to being more of a servant, open to being, maybe sometimes a little harder, but I think those are some of the things that it's going to take to actually make the environment and the people and things around me better.
Yeah, I always say you got to set the standard, create the standard. And once you have the standard, then you can lead them to the standard and you can show them you're not meeting the standard right now.
Right.
And that makes it less personal. You don't have to feel like you're being a bad guy because you're talking about the standard. I tell this to even corporate executives. You got the standard, but now you have to say, all right, I see your performance. It doesn't look like that. It's not looking like the standard. So what do we have to do to get to the standard? So we just talk about the standard all the time.
Right.
Yeah, it's great stuff. If there's a young man listening right now, he wants to play in the NBA. He wants to be the next you. I'm sure you have a lot of kids reach out to you, say, I want to be the next you. I know you got a ton of fans. I was there with you in Phoenix when you had the line of people trying to get signatures from you, kids who look up to you. What would you tell those kids right now who have a dream that you had?
I would tell them to be true. Just looking at a lot of athletes and young people right now, it's just I don't see authenticity, and that's not me criticizing younger people like they supposed to be a 32-year-old like me and see things like me. I just think people are looking for, a lot more just instant gratification, and they're looking for validation in some of the wrong things, in my opinion. So I think a lot of kids that I'm seeing, even coming into the NBA now, going into college, high school stars with Instagram followers and, NIL money. So they getting a level of success before they actually reach the NBA. And it's making them be what they think they should be, or what people tell them they are, or they got people just, yes men around them. My advice was just to be true, man. Be true to this. Be true to the game. Do things for the love of the game. Work hard. Be coachable. Be responsible. Be respectful. Have good character. Treat people the right way. Be compassionate. All of those small things, because the talent is crazy right now. But I feel like being all of those things is what allowed somebody like me to eventually blossom into the player that I am, even though the ability and all of the things that I do now wasn't there. All of the other things were there in developing. So it gave me the runway to eventually, blossom and grow into the player that I am, and where I needed to be good enough to be in the NBA and become all-star and all those other things. But I just feel like for the younger generation of players and athletes now, is to be true. Don't be a follower. Don't look at what some of the next person has, and this person has this NIL money. And if I do this on Instagram or TikTok, then it'll get me this many followers. Like, just be true to what really counts and what really matters. And in the long run, you'll be happy with where you end up versus the people that, seek the other things and go about things in other ways. And I feel like that's who I've been. Even though social media, none of these things was the same, there was a lot of things, even in my era, where it was like, I want to play for this program and I want to do this and do that. And, it was what mattered. But to me, some things just never mattered. I was like, I'm not transferring from Weber State. I'm not going to, not be coachable. I'm not going to be late to class. I'm not going to, push my line against, whatever the authority wants, even though I'm a big name on campus or whatever. I'm gonna follow instructions. I'm gonna be coachable. I'm gonna do what I'm told. I'm gonna be respectful. I'm gonna treat the teachers and the people on campus respectful. Like just all the little things. I always stayed true to those things, regardless of how popular I was or what was in my favor or anything. And I've still done that to this day, and I've continued to reap the benefits of that type of behavior and those type of, authentic actions. So I would just encourage kids to be more true to that, than this other stuff. And I think it'll take them much further.
And knowing you for a pretty long time now and seeing your growth, you reached out to me after your rookie season. I will never forget reaching out after you were named Rookie of the Year. Had no idea you read training camp. We talked, been following you ever since. You have stayed the same. 2 words I want to tell these young kids listening that describe you: humility. You have incredible humility. And I think that allows you to be coached. It allows you to be humble. It allows you to continue to work. It allows you to not let the success go to your head. So you have this incredible humility that lets Phil get the best out of you even now,
Right.
which is awesome. And then just this high character that you have of being who you are and knowing that you're going to do things the right way, and your character drives you. And I often say that character and culture drive talent towards greatness. And you're a great example of that, because a lot of kids, as you said, they're making NLI money, they're making money, or they're getting deals at a young age, and they stop working because they think they've arrived. They think they've arrived, so they stop working. And so if you give a 25-year-old money, it could spell trouble in a lot of the professional leagues. Now you're giving an 18-year-old money, and it spells big trouble when they think they've arrived. That's something you're probably concerned about as well. I was talking to Dabo Sweeney, very concerned about that with kids getting money early, only because he sees that these kids may not work as hard, so they may not achieve their dream because of the money we're giving them early on.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, you look at it like some of them are like, I'm a chill. You know what I mean? Like, what do I have to work? What do I need to be working for? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know, man. Some kids are like, I feel like when I was growing up, it was like, I want to play varsity. I want to get a scholarship. I want to play in March Madness. I want to be a part of a program. And, that was like my love for basketball, and I don't think athletes now, I don't think they love the sports anymore. They love what the sports can do for them. And I think it shows by when they're given, something like money or something like popularity or fame, and they just end up, flaming out, they don't stick. And I think that's where you see it. The love for the game just isn't the same. I'm sure it's still there. Obviously, it's going to still be there, but I don't think it's the same as it used to be.
Right. And I always see with you invest in the root. And when you invest in the root, you get the fruit. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, they're focusing on the fruit. They ignore the root, and then the tree dies. So you're investing in the root. One other word I got to end with is loyalty. You're so loyal. You stayed at Weber State, you could have left. Trailblazers, you could have left, but you stayed, right? You stayed with your coach, Phil. So loyalty is really big for you, isn't it? And what is it about loyalty? Is it from the neighborhood you grew up in? Is it from the family around you? Is it from seeing all these people who actually had your back, and you know that they had your back, you're going to have their back, and that keeps you going forward?
Yeah, I think like it comes like everything. It comes from that foundation, my upbringing, my family, the kind of people I grew up around. And I do understand that this is a business, I don't do anything and keep score, expecting something in return. I know what could possibly happen, but I think it's me just being true to me. And being loyal to my team, or being loyal with Phil being my trainer, and the people around me, just having the same people around me. I think when we reach a certain level of success or status, it's easy to think that it's because of us, because it is, because we're the ones going out there accomplishing, the things that we're accomplishing and being compensated and rewarded the way we are. But it's a lot of people that play a part, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people behind the scenes, and, people that participated in that success. And, a lot of things, we wouldn't have had a platform for, we wouldn't have had, the knowledge of. It's a lot of things that, you take away from other people, or that you receive from other people, that may not be the end all be all, but it contributed to, what's taking place. And I just got a big place in my heart for that. It's never underappreciated. So, I don't think everybody feels that way. So it's almost like it's become a criticism of mine that I've been loyal, so, but it is what it is.
I think it's a great characteristic. Great characteristic. I think, Damon, you're a great leader. You're an incredible example of what it looks like to be a great leader, to be a great teammate, to be a hard worker, to go after your dreams, to be mentally tough, to have the right mindset, and always do things the right way and be authentically you. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for doing it.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you.